Hello everyone, Joe Fanatic Sports here. Let's just get right into it. We hear it all the time. Every couple of years there's this generational, can't miss, can't bust type of NFL draft prospect. They're uber talented, super athletic, have high football IQs, and have great measurables. They're really everything that you could ever want. Now, what if I told you that the generational prospects' careers usually don't turn out how you want them to? 25 years ago, which is half of Mike Kennedy NFL's age, there was Peyton Manning, a generational quarterback prospect out of Tennessee drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, first overall in 1998. Peyton is the premier case of the term generational prospect. Number one pick that developed into an all-time player. Some may say the best quarterback ever. 14-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro, 5-time MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and 1 Super Bowl MVP. He stayed very loyal to the franchise that drafted him until his big injury, where the Colts cut him, and he went to Denver, where he would win another Super Bowl, an MVP, and have a season record for most touchdowns in 1 year. It is rare for a player to stay with the team that drafted him for as long as Peyton did, 13 years to be exact, and he is the golden boy for generational prospects. You see a tall, smart, accurate passer of the football and immediately think he's next in the NFL. It applies to all positions. Running backs that can do everything. Big and fast receivers. Lengthy and athletic edge rushers. You get my point. Peyton was a prospect not many have seen before. While there were conversations about him and Ryan Leaf pre-draft, Peyton was always going 1 to Indy. After Manning, the term generational prospect will be dawned upon many other players heading into the draft, and none would play out as Peyton Manning did. People see these generational prospects as players who can turn a franchise around, win Super Bowls, MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, etc. Everyone thinks that they will change the league as a whole, become stars, and do only good in the NFL. Now, I'm going to list off every player that was deemed a generational prospect or seemed to have generational talent, measurables, or something of that nature since the year 2000. Julius Peppers, Charles Rogers, Kellen Winslow Jr., Sean Taylor, Vince Young, Reggie Bush, Jamarcus Russell, Adrian Peterson, Calvin Johnson, Aaron Curry, Patrick Peterson, Andrew Luck, RG3, Trent Richardson, Jadeveon Clowney, Sammy Watkins, Jameis Winston, Roberto Aguayo, Myles Garrett, Jamal Adams, Saquon Barkley, Chase Young, Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence, and for next year, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. All these guys were either consensus number one picks, high floor, high ceilings, bust-proof, athletic, overall, just perfect prospects for the NFL. Now, I know some of these names are very familiar, but let's look at the success rate of this group of guys outside of the two coming next year. For a generational prospect to be successful, they have to elevate the team around them immediately. Of the last 24 generational prospects, how many have made more than 1 Pro Bowl? 11. All-Pro selections? 7. Has won an award of any kind? 7. Who has fallen out of the league within 6 years for skill reasons? 6. Lastly, who on that list has won a Super Bowl? Just 2. Reggie Bush and somehow Sammy Watkins. Generational prospects don't just grow on trees. The most recent ones have had success, but have not fulfilled every expectation. From 2017 on, how many playoff games combined do you think those 6 guys have? 8. That's not bad. But how many of them have suffered serious injuries? 4. The NFL draft is never safe. That's why there is never a bust-proof pick. Sorry, Aaron Curry. Now, there's one guy who has not proven whether or not he has lived up to or failed being called a generational prospect. And that is Trevor Lawrence. The best prospect since Andrew Luck, one of only 3 guys, including Luck and Manning, that really were absolutely generational at the time. Ever since high school, he was seen as the number 1 pick in whatever draft he declared for. He was perfect. He's tall, strong arm, smart, accurate, mobile. He's really just the perfect quarterback prospect. Generational. Through 2 years, he has shown promise. He had turnover issues at times in his rookie year, but hey, Peyton Manning had it a lot worse, and he didn't have Urban Meyer. He elevated his game this past season, leading the Jaguars to an astounding wildcard comeback win against the Chargers, but he threw 4 interceptions in the first half in that game. Yeah, they won, but he made a lot of mistakes, but he also came in when it mattered the most. Trevor's one of the only guys I can say, yeah, calling him generational might be right. Everything is set for him in Jacksonville. Great coach and weapons in Duval. Doug Peterson's a dog. They got Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk now. Trevor, this is your time to prove the media right. But what I just said about Trevor Lawrence, we've said before. Andrew Luck was the best prospect since Peyton Manning when he came out in 2012. Funny enough, because he also went to the Colts. He came out scorching, making the playoffs immediately in his rookie season. The next year, a 38-10 comeback against Kansas City in the playoffs, and 40 touchdowns in his third year. But then, the injury struck. He'd play 7 games in 2015, going 2-5, then just go 8-7 in 2016 in 15 games. He would then miss the entire 2017 season, come back for 2018, and play great. Then, he'd retire after only playing 86 games in his NFL career. Some say that Luck lived up to the generational prospect crown he was given. I mean, he was very good when he did play. I'm surprised he didn't make an All-Pro. Probably not an MVP just because of team records and all that. But if you think about it, he has no Super Bowl appearances, no MVPs, no All-Pros, and missed a ton of time due to injuries. And retired after only being in the league for 7 years and playing in only 6 of them. Luck is the perfect example about the truth of generational prospects. No matter what, it's not something you can really live up to. While great when he was on the field, he could not live up to the title of generational. No matter how good one player is, they rarely elevate your team to immediate contention or really contention at all. Look at Adrian Peterson, Julius Peppers, and Calvin Johnson. Hall of Famers, no doubt, but no Super Bowl or many successful playoff appearances to show for it. Patrick Peterson also deserves to be mentioned here. While he may not be a lock for the Hall, he's been elite at times in his career and even came alive again last season after a couple down years prior to that. Good luck in Pittsburgh, by the way. While I did just mention some really great players that might not be proving my point, there were some in that graphic I showed earlier that were just really bad. Let's take a look at Charles Rogers. Rogers was a wide receiver drafted 2nd overall in 2003 after an illustrious career at Michigan State. Plaxico Burress, college teammate of Charles, even said, "Charles Rogers is a better receiver right now than I ever was in college. I can't believe how good he is." He actually scored twice in his first ever game, Rogers did. 2 of 4 total touchdowns in his career. After 3 years, he was out of the league. Then we have Kellen Winslow Jr., tight end, 6th overall pick in 2004, who did have some decent years, but fell the league at 30 and is now in prison. Vince Young was drafted 3rd in 2006, was a Heisman winner and a national champion, had 2 Pro Bowls, but was never actually that good statistically. I didn't watch the NFL back then. I don't know how he made those Pro Bowls, and he was out of the league in 6 years. Jamarcus Russell, 1st pick in 2007. That's you know. He obviously does not know how a VCR works, or else he would know it was a blank tape. Aaron Curry, Butkus Award winner, and the safest bet in draft history, was picked 4th in 2009. He fell victim to his lack of motivation after he was paid. He's quoted saying, "My goal was to get paid, and I got paid. And me looking back on it now, I got what I wanted. Now what? Well, you sucked in the NFL, that's what. And you were out of the league after just 4 seasons." Next is Robert Griffin III, who I'll try to keep short. We all know the story. Offensive Rookie of the Year, tore his ACL, and then injuries just ruined the rest of his career. Trent Richardson was drafted right after RG3 and Andrew Luck, and he was just never good at football. Injuries and a lack of vision got him out of the league in just 3 years. When I say it couldn't find a hole, it was harder for him to find a hole than half of the people watching this video. Lastly, there's Roberto Aguayo, the most accurate kicker in college history as he only missed 9 kicks. But after being drafted in the 2nd round by the Buccaneers, which, that's just comedy, he just could not kick a football. He played 1 year and never got another job. I genuinely don't know how a kicker does not translate to the NFL. And I don't think anyone can explain it to me, no matter how in-depth they go. You could have Pat McAfee sit in front of me for an hour and explain how it's possible, and I will not understand it. Then there's the guys who were decent but didn't live up to the hype. Reggie Bush, Heisman Trophy running back who was drafted second in 2006. He's one of the most explosive prospects ever. Could line up anywhere, return kicks and punts, had great burst, quick, could run inside or out. But he didn't really show that in the NFL. 2 seasons playing 16 games, 2 1,000-yard seasons in an 11-year career. While productive, he did not live up to the generational hype he got as the 05 Heisman winner. Then, Jadeveon Clowney. Wow. He was compared to Julius Peppers before the 2014 draft, a once-in-a-generation athlete according to Bleacher Report. He had every physical tool to dominate NFL tackles. Amazing pass rusher, could be a perennial double-digit sack guy, but lacks in run defense. He was drafted first by the Texans in 2014, and scouts could not have said the exact opposite of Jadeveon Clowney's skill set in the league. Since being drafted, he's not had a single double-digit sack season, though he has had 3 with 9 or 9.5. But he has been one of the best run defenders off the edge for a few years in his career. Keep in mind, Defensive Player of the Years went after Clowney in this historic 2014 class, with Khalil Mack at 5 to the Raiders and Aaron Donald at 13 to the Rams. Not a bad player, but not worth being called Julius Peppers and not worth the first overall pick. There's some guys that have had up and down careers as well, like Sammy Watkins, who still somehow has a Super Bowl win, Jameis Winston, and Chase Young. Watkins, the 4th pick of the 2014 draft, is the king of week 1. Goes off every season opener, then you never hear from him again. He had a couple decent seasons in Buffalo, but besides that has been nothing but a wide receiver 3. Jameis Winston, my GOAT, has been the king of ups and downs. Number 1 pick in 2015, pick 6 on his first career throw, had a 5,000-yard, 30-touchdown, 30-interception season. But he is still my glorious King Jabu. But now he's a backup in New Orleans after showing some signs of improvement during his time starting there, but they wanted Derek Carr instead. Then, Chase Young. He has shown real signs of being a dominant force in the league at edge rusher, but has only played in 12 games in the last 2 seasons. We just have to hope he can come back healthy in the final year of his rookie deal, show everyone why he was drafted second in 2020. Generational prospects do come every now and then, but as you see, the failure rate is off the charts. While some are just terrible and some are not awful, they definitely don't live up to the expectations they had coming into the league. There are some Hall of Famers who had the hype before entering the league, like Calvin Johnson and Adrian Peterson, but like I mentioned earlier, they did not have the team success, so it goes to show how hard it is for any prospect, no matter how great they end up being, to be able to bring a team to the next level by themselves just because they are the next big thing. Trevor Lawrence is entering the 3rd year of his career, and the Jaguars are the clear favorite to win the AFC South. They are my sleeper contender for the AFC. I think there is a shot they make a deep postseason run because of Lawrence. Hopefully, this season can show why he can fulfill those generational prospect expectations he has. In this next NFL draft, we have Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC, and Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of OSU. Marvin is seen more as the generational prospect because he's a wide receiver that is for sure going top 5, probably top 3, and has every skill you could possibly want from a wideout. But Caleb is the consensus number 1, the best QB prospect since Lawrence, and has so many good intangibles and mechanics that a team would want. This video was made to really say to all of you fans and analysts to calm down on giving these impossible expectations to these young studs. We see it in the NBA as well, with guys like Zion Williamson. So they have potential to be great, but don't call them a sure thing. Don't call them generational. Rather, use a term like presidential prospect, created by Reddit user Zendrick Ellison. By the way, go check out that whole thread. He does a great job looking at every draft and defining each draft and their generational and presidential prospects. He defines a presidential prospect as a player who transcends his draft class and would stand out as the best over a multi-year span, while a generational prospect is the type of guy who comes along every 20-ish years. So basically, just calm down on Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams next year, because we can't be that sure. Please. And with all that being said, that is it for me, guys. thank you for tuning into Fanatic Sports. If you made it this far in the video, come on now, give it a like and subscribe, as all support is very much appreciated and helps me out more than you know. Also, follow me on Instagram at FanaticSports25 and on Twitter and TikTok at Fanatic Sports. This is Joe of Fanatic Sports, signing off.